Hello and welcome to Breaking Even with Al Paton on your official SuperCoach AFL podcast feed. Heading into round 24, SuperCoach Grand Final week is here. We have a very special show with me, Al Paton. Joining me on the couch, Patch. Great to have you.
Al, it's very exciting to be here. Very exciting to be in Grand Final week. Good to have you back. Good to have me not have any Grand Finals to be in. So... delighted to be here.
I think I might have a couple, but of course we're joined by a very special guest, Leigh Montagna, official SuperCoach ambassador. Leigh, great to have you back on. Are you in any grannies this weekend?
I think I am. I think I'm in 5, but I'm in a lot of leagues. So I started in plenty. People had me in, so probably 5 out of 1,000 is not many, but that's all right. I'm in a couple.
That's all right. It's 5 more than me at this stage, so well done.
Gives you something to play for. Now, if you're lucky enough to have any trades left, we'll ask you about that shortly. We will name some grand final specials and dive deep into who to put the captaincy on this weekend, which will be huge, of course, and we'll have a little bit of a look back at our best and worst moves and maybe some lessons that we learned over the course of the year. But first, we have some big breaking SuperCoach news. Next Monday, we will have a brand new SuperCoach champion who will be $50,000 richer, and that is a very tight race. If you go back and listen to the Phantoms lair, they discussed that at length. But SuperCoach does not end for all of us this weekend. SuperCoach EPL, of course, is up and running. SuperCoach NFL is coming with lots more sports on the horizon as well. And we can reveal today that SuperCoach AFL will continue through September with a brand new game, SuperCoach Finals.
Ooh, that's a nice one. How's that one work? What's that?
Well, it is a new... I'm glad you asked, Joe. It is a new high-stakes, short-format game to crown the ultimate finals champion in SuperCoach. There's no salary cap, unlimited trades, pick a fresh team every week. Captains, triple points. Vice captains, double points. Patch,
wow.
How excited are we to have finals back in SuperCoach?
It's very exciting. It's been a long time since SuperCoach Finals were on the table, and I'm very keen to get back into it.
Just some of the quick mechanics. We'll get a lot more details to come out, but you pick 9 players, 8 scores count, so 1 drops off. That'll be 2 defenders, 3 mids, 1 ruck, 2 forwards, and a flex. There will be limits on how many players per team in the finals you can pick, but there is a prize at the end of $2,500. So the game is open live now. Get in and start picking, I guess.
So you pick a new team each week for the finals?
Correct.
Yep.
At the moment, I suppose there's probably 9 teams worth of players in there, but in a little bit of time, we'll narrow that down to 8 and be able to actually start deciding who we want to put in our lineups.
Yeah, so you start with obviously 2 per team, so you can't load up on Cats or Lions or whoever you want to, and then Grand Final week you'll have to make a 50-50 split basically, which is a very interesting little dynamic to play around with. So very limited which players you can target, but Joey is someone who's been out there in September. Any insights into the types of play? How are finals different to the home and away?
Yeah, generally finals a bit more contested. Probably harder for the forwards to really have big nights or big afternoons. It's a little bit tougher. So I'd be sticking, if you can, to the guys who are going to be playing around the ball. And I reckon the intercept defenders can sometimes have big final series. So we might touch on Tom Stewart later, but he might be one that you keep an eye on for finals, even though he'd been slightly disappointing in the home and away season.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that we have unlimited trades, maybe you can take risks on guys like that a bit easier. I must admit, the first thing that struck me was that nobody's playing Richmond. So it's going to be a bit harder to pick a captain. So, that's the other huge thing. Triple points for captains, so double points for vice as well. So that's really going to, where you can maybe find your separation from all the other teams out there.
Yeah, it can really set you apart there if you nail the captain. If you get it wrong as well on the flip side, you pick a Lockie Neal and he has a 60-point game, then...
That's going to be hard. How do you separate Bontempelli from Dacos, from Jordan Dawson, from, Max Holmes? That's going to be tough to sort out.
Yeah, plenty of good players to choose from. So as you say, many more details coming on that. The game is live, so get in and start having a play around with that, and we'll be doing some more videos and more content around it as well. But we better turn our focus back to this weekend because there are plenty of league finals on the line, league premierships, and of course the 50K as well. And we know that every SuperCoach knows that managing injuries is a key to success. This is the Injury Report, proudly brought to you by HBF, your health dream team. And some big names, and not a lot of them, but some names that are going to make a big difference, I think, in plenty of SuperCoach finals.
It'll make a massive difference to the run to $50,000 as well. Brodie Grundy is a test for concussion, playing the West Coast Eagles in Perth. Does he play? Does he not play? I think the 50K will be decided by that as well. Hundreds of thousands of leagues, hundreds or thousands of leagues. Zach Merritt He's going to play his 250th game on Thursday night against Carlton at the MCG. He's back in POG form, and Izak Rankine is not going to be playing at this stage. We're recording lunchtime on Wednesday. Looks like the saga will continue to drag on, but at this stage, he won't be playing.
Yeah, I think that's probably not knowing what the outcome is at this point, but that seems pretty certain that he definitely won't be playing this weekend. So that's going to affect. He's in 49% of SuperCoach teams, so
including mine.
Yeah, so that's a massive one. Cooper Lord, not a huge name from. It wouldn't be in too many SuperCoach teams, but he's going to miss with concussion, and he has been tagging for Carlton. So that's a bit of a double bonus if you're a Zach Merritt owner that he comes back in and does not cop the tag. Tom Gross on my bench is a test with a calf. That's pretty big. And some big news I did spot down at Richmond. Obviously Nick Flostone going down with a fractured ankle, but Campbell Gray is listed as available.
Wowee.
So could he make a round 24 comeback just to bolster the bench for plenty of SuperCoach teams? Maybe in the VFL Richmond has some finals to play there. That is a wrap on this week's injury report. Thanks to HBF. Make the smart move. Join HBF, your health dream team. So the big question, Joey, you're in grand finals. Do you have any trades?
I don't. I used my last one last week, so I took the punt. I thought it was more important to make sure I got to the grand final rather than leave it short. So I went down that path, and now I'm stuck with Izak Rankine that I need to trade, and I'm not sure I can make it work because my bench players aren't playing, and I don't know if I can rejig it enough yet. I'm going to have to use the Optimise and see if I can somehow make it work.
Yeah, I mean, Flex has been a saviour this year, and if you can play with 22, and I think probably a lot of teams had to do that last week with a Grundy out, and thankfully, there weren't too many other landmines that happened, but, you just have to cross your fingers and hope that gets through. But it's certainly been a game changer this week. For anyone who does have trades, the most popular traded in players this week, and the numbers are not huge, but Tristan Cherry, obviously off his massive game last week, does have a tougher matchup this week against Adelaide and Riley O'Brien. Jeremy Cameron, pretty obvious sort of pick for, he's just a few grand cheaper than Rankine. So there's a nice swap there. People are trading in Cooper Trembath, so he's a 99k defender. So if you still want a rookie at this time of year, why not? He looked all right.
His price is about to shoot right up on the bubble.
Dylan Moore, coming off a good score last week, does have the Lions this week, a bit tougher. And Harry Mackay, who had a massive game last week, obviously, and does have the Bombers this week. So, you never know. If you want to...
Without a key defender on their list who's fit. So,
it's just risky taking Harry Mackay.
Maybe if you just
risky prospect.
Well, I mean, if you bring him in, VC him, and he kicks 11. That's a grand final one.
Yeah.
But
some of the other players that I like this weekend, if you have a trade, if you have sort of unlimited money, I guess, Grundy 750k nearly. Isaac Heaney, part of me, is 589, and he scored 165 and 150 in his past two games against West Coast. So there's a couple of matchups, Sydney versus West Coast, Geelong versus Richmond, obviously, Bailey Smith, Max Holmes in plenty of teams already, but the Tigers just gave up 94 disposals to Sheasel and Luke Davies-Uniacke last weekend, so you think those two guys will have a field day. And
especially
Cameron
with the Brownlow on the line for Bailey Smith potentially. So watch Bailey Smith, I reckon, fill his boots, trying to potentially win a Brownlow medal.
Yeah. And Jez is the other one that I'm sure when people brought him in, they probably had their eye on this fixture. And just looking back to last year, round 24, if you think he might take his foot off the pedal, he kicked 9 goals in that game, corresponding game against West Coast. So, I'd expect him to kick a few this weekend. How many does he need for the ton?
He's on 79. So he still needs 21 over 5 games. If he gets a massive bag this week, I reckon it's on. If he kicks less than 5, then you wipe him off, I reckon.
Anyone else, or you think he's the obvious one if you need a Rankine replacement and you do have a trade up your sleeve? I mean, pretty much any Geelong player. Sean Mannor's been scoring well, and he's well under that sort of price.
No, Shannon Neal too as well might help Jeremy Cameron.
Yeah, that's right.
Closer to goal.
I've been infuriated every time Shannon Neal's taken the mark inside 50 for the Cats. I'm like, you're not Jezza. Crows play North Melbourne this week, and I'm wondering if someone like an Alex Neil-Bullen or a Ben Keys is a shout with Rankine out. Maybe, if you're desperate, you don't have a lot of cash, maybe you could look at one of those guys, but I'd be looking at someone else. If you've got a Jezza, if you've got a bunch of other guys, then, I'd be doing that. And then, reminder as well, the Essendon Gold Coast game will not count for SuperCoach. For those still unclear, will not count, no double game for Bombers or Suns players.
Just imagine how many points Raul could score if you added the 2 games, the round 24 games together. But obviously that was part of opening round originally. Those games didn't count for SuperCoach, so it's still that same applies now, even though the fixture's a bit unusual. But yeah, we'll be announcing the winner on Monday before that game happens. But looking at captains and vice captains, which is sort of those trades kind of lead into this a bit because some of those guys are names that would feature here too. If you go through the round starting Essendon and Carlton Thursday, apart from maybe Harry Mackay, you're probably not looking at anyone in that game, I don't think.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Well, no tag, we're saying. But,
yeah.
But then the Friday night, you've got two games, Collingwood, Melbourne, Port Adelaide, Gold Coast. So Dacos is a really interesting one. He's absolutely flying. 5-round average of 138. He only scored 95 on King's birthday when Ed Langdon just absolutely, scragged him all day long. But last year, in the same corresponding game, middle of the year, he scored 64 with a really heavy tag, and then they played Melbourne again in the last round.
He dominated,
they didn't bother tagging, and he scored 186. Yeah. So Melbourne has a new coach now. Do you tag in the last round?
It's a tough one. It's tough to know. I think if it was Melbourne, the coach will just let them play.
Yeah.
And again, you talk about a Brownlow medal. Nick Dacos on the line. I think he could have a big night, but it's tough because you also got Max Gorn that you could make as your vice captain on a Friday night game. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think, Nick Dacos last three at the MCG, 99, 110, 177. Loves playing there as well. Yep. So I think that, Gorn does as well, but it's not an easy decision.
And then, the Port Gold Coast game.
Yeah, Gold Coast too, you can go Rowell or
Butters, Anderson, Rowell. Yeah, there's a few options there. No sort of real taggers floating around, I wouldn't think, in that game. Saturday, you mentioned North and Adelaide. Maybe, Sheasel, if he can repeat his performance from last week, probably slightly tougher opposition. Cherry, obviously, we know he can go big, and Dawson maybe against North. But then you've got Richmond versus Geelong and West Coast Sydney. So this is, I think, where we're really where we're looking. So, Baz, Jeremy Cameron, you could certainly VC if you wanted to try something different. Apart from Holmes, Smith and Cameron, the next most owned Geelong player is Mitch Nevitt, but, maybe.
Maybe not VC him, maybe emergency loop him, but...
any of those guys could just... they could all go massive. Look at that North game last week, how many players put up. Richmond's just absolutely... battling to get to the finish line, and the Cats are tuning up for September. So.
Honestly, you could trade in Brian Myers and VC him, and it's probably not a terrible
No,
shout.
actually, any of those Geelong forwards at the moment. Sean Manners a good one as well. Yeah, there's plenty of options.
And then you've got Grundy, if he plays against West Coast.
As locky as it gets.
Heaney and Goulden, and even Chad Warner, there's a few Swans that could score well. And then into the Sunday games now, feels really spaced these out to provide maximum drama. You've got GWS St Kilda at 12:20. So Naz is in that game. Rowan Marshall, although I did look up their scores from earlier in the year. Naz scored 133 in round 5 against the Giants. Marshall scored 52 in that game.
Yeah.
So after trading him, using my last trade last week to bring him in for Grundy, hope he can improve on that. And then you've got the Bulldogs Freo at 3:15 now. The Bont obviously is the one that you'd think of straight away. He's averaging 146 over his past 7 games. His last 3 games against Freo, 162, 102, 182. And a little bit on the line, you think, this is just made for the Bont, isn't it?
Yep, I think so. Yeah, I would think with the season on the line at Marvel Stadium, they kick up big scores there. You couldn't go wrong with Bont. Even an Ed Richards will probably have a big night as well.
Yeah, looking at that game, these two teams played earlier in the year, and Bont didn't play. That was when he was still out injured. But Sarong scored 142, Brayshaw 135, Jackson 115, Richards 97. Darcy kicked 5 goals and scored 141 in that game.
I was about to say, on the flip side, would you go, because Freo season on the line as
well?
Would you go, Sarong, Brayshaw as well?
Yeah, I've had Sarong in my team all year. He's been a little bit disappointing, so I'd probably steer clear of Sarong, but he needs to have a big game. If they are to win Fremantle, it's going to be off the back of Brayshaw, Sarong.
Shea Bolton, Patch?
We'll get to that. We will get to Shea Bolton a bit later on in the podcast.
And the last game of the SuperCoach season, Brisbane versus Hawthorn. I have to wait till 7:20 for that one. I don't know if there's anyone you'd be captaining there unless, absolute Hail Mary. You're watching the live scores over the weekend. You're hanging on to that last trade. Maybe a Dunkley or, waiting for your captaincy. No one else I could really think of in that game. No. So it's probably that Bulldogs Freo game where it's all going to be decided.
Yep.
And look at those top teams in the rankings. There's quite a variety of those guys. Some have Sarong, some don't. A couple have Jackson, Brayshaw, Ed Richards, Darcy. There's a smattering of all of them. So, and then obviously, a few have Grundy and a few don't. So, lots on the line at the top end. But after going through all that, is there any combination that you're confident with at this stage in terms of maybe an early VC? And then, I think I'd be pretty confident with the Bont as a backup captain.
Yep, I'd probably go with Nick Dacos vice and then play around with a Jordan Dawson or a Bontempelli on the Saturday, Sunday.
I think I'm going Jezza. I've gone chips in on him for the last few weeks. I may as well commit to the bit. If he drops another 46 again, then I'd probably go Grundy. But Bond's such an attractive and such a safe option, I think. Grundy, if they play Laddams as well.
Well, Laddams was actually really good last week.
I
So
know.
if they play them both, I mean, it didn't affect
both,
Grundy too much a couple of weeks ago. But
I'm not interested if they play both. He's just, not taking that risk when Bont's there and such a good option, I think.
I think it's me. It's just that toss of the coin, Bailey Smith or Max Holmes. I mean, probably Baz is the more reliable, I guess, you could expect he's going to have 30, 35 plus whatever happens. It's just a matter of if he can snag a goal or two or if he misses a few targets.
Well, Joey, you'd know, would there be a chance of them just sitting on the pine in the last quarter where...
That's a good point with Geelong. That's probably what you have to consider.
Off you come.
Even Jeremy Cameron, that could be a consideration. If they're up by 50-odd points at early in the third quarter,
I
wouldn't surprise me that Chris Scott's going to look after his best players. I know they've got the bye the following week, but they do things slightly differently, and that's always the risk with the Cats, that they might just be a little bit different. So maybe it is safer going for the teams that are going to go hell for leather, like the Bulldogs or Fremantle, someone like that need to win. Collingwood as well might be a better bet.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Looking back on the season briefly to wrap things up, I did go back and have a look at it's a bit of a nice exercise you can do at this time of year, looking at your team and thinking how many of these guys were actually in my team in March. And I think I've got 7, which is, I don't think I've ever had that lower number. And a couple of those, like one of those is Harry Boyd, who's sat on the bench the entire year. I think he played round 1, didn't he? And
I told you not to put Harry Boyd in. I told you don't fall into the Harry Boyd hype.
So there you go. We didn't listen.
You didn't listen. I listened. I didn't have him.
But I did, speaking of the Saints, I did pick Naz in my starting team, so been very happy with that. So he's one who's carried all the way through and just, absolutely exploded in recent times. Pretty big week for him, obviously, and the Saints. And I picked Andy Brayshaw as well, which was worked out pretty well. A couple that aren't there, but just some of the rookies that, sort of look back and you forget some of these guys. But Zach Reid was an amazing Supercoach pick for us. If you held him for a fair chunk of the season until unfortunately got injured again. Sam Davidson again, another fantastic rookie. And another name that I'd pretty much forgotten about was Nathan O'Driscoll, who I think I traded out in about round 5. He got injured, but he made 100K in that time, was a really strong starting pick. But I did start Harry Perryman. You probably told me not to pick Hugo Garcia, and I started him as well. He's been pretty good lately, but it wasn't really doing much earlier in the season. I mean, what do you think of Clayton Oliver? Is it like that was just a bit of a bust in the end, wasn't it? Just he pretty much finished at the same price he started.
Yeah, he was fine, I guess. From a Supercoach perspective, held up an end.
Yeah, I was hoping for more. Remember, I was bullish. I thought maybe he could be one that some of those guys that were just a tier below the sort of premium price, that he was one that didn't probably go to the level that I was hoping to.
Yeah. Do you remember what your team looked like?
I reckon I would. I think I had a lot more that I've set and forget that I locked in. The Dash Brothers, Holmes, and Bailey Smith. The Bailey Smith one was the obvious at the start of the year, but I don't think we could see that would go as well as he did. I went with Sinclair. Remember, I said don't jump off Sinclair, even though he was injury concerned.
Yes, that's right.
I just stuck with Jack Sinclair, Caleb Sarong, Nick Dacos, Max Gorn. So I sort of had a few that I locked away throughout the year that I stuck with. I'm pretty loyal to my team.
Patch, any hits and misses from you? I had Naz as well all through the year, which, very fun to have him. All season. A lot of players that, I had 8 guys, I think, are still there from round 1. Not Bailey Smith. Bailey Smith was a miss and brought him in round 4. So
I shouldn't have said the obvious. He was obvious.
Well, he was obvious to smart people, not to me. Brayshaw as well was a nice start. I don't think I messed up the side too much from the premium perspective, but it was more the rookies, like Murphy Reid missing, and then trading out Sam Powell-Pepper after he's 18 or whatever it was in round 1. Both of them really hurt a lot more than starting Bo Allen to get a VC score in round 1, and then whoever else I started instead of Murphy Reid.
Well, one of my keepers that I've held the entire season is Ben Paton. I mean, I had him and Connor Stone as sort of my, had some nice little DPP flexibility, which was sort of useful in a couple of occasions. But, neither of them obviously made really any money or did anything, and I would have been much better with some of those names that you mentioned. Even in Elijah Hewitt, who I didn't start for some reason.
Like trading through, I think it shows that you don't really need to nail your starting side in order to
that's true.
to sail through. And I've had a reasonably good season, so I'm pretty happy with how I've taken taken that side forward.
And when you talk about the trades, any that stand out that you're really happy with, or that blew up completely?
Sinclair in round 3. I finally got on Joey's bandwagon a few weeks
took me
too late.
about half a year.
That was nice. Anderson a few weeks later.
Oh yeah, nice.
Even though trading Jason Horne-Francis out the week before he scored 150 kind of sucked. I did get Bailey Smith and Ryan Marich for him, so that was a net win in the end. Like those guys were kind of the foundation to build the rest of the team on through the year. From those early trade-ins were really, I got them right, which was nice.
Yeah, Horne-Francis just sort of seems to come up repeatedly when I look back at mostly my worst moves of the year, and I was umming and ahhing as if people will remember over the off season, and I wasn't really convinced, but sort of felt I had to start him, which I did, and then I traded him out after his first 2 games, which were pretty underwhelming. Yep. And at the time, he went out and scored 150 that week, and I brought in Matt Rowell, who scored 70 or something. And I thought, this is the dumbest move I've made in the history of Supercoach. And if you look at that trade in isolation, by the end of the season, getting Rowell in round 3, that's
fantastic.
Been fantastic. And Horne-Francis was in and out and didn't score that well. But unfortunately, I went and used another trade to get him in, and then another trade to get him out. And so that didn't work out. And the fallout from that, what really hurt me the most was I used a boost that week. But I think a lot of people traded in. There were sort of 2 obvious rookies that week, which were Riley Bice and Christian Moraes.
Yep.
And because I did this Horne-Francis thing, I could only get one of them, and I got Moraes.
Yep.
So I missed Riley Bice that first week when he scored 120, went up by 80 grand or something like that,
Yep.
and I got him in the next week. But just that money just affects, has flow-on effects all the way down the line. I mean, I look at some of the amounts that I've spent. I paid 600 grand for Dacos, which now looks fine, but he did get cheaper after that. I paid 700 for Gawn, 735, 750 for Grundy, and I paid 660 for Bont, and all those guys, well, maybe except for Grundy, got quite a bit cheaper.
Yep.
It's a tricky one, though, because I don't want to look back now and say, I wish I didn't get Max Gawn or I wish I didn't get Bontempelli, but you just trying to get the timing right is always the tricky
Do you
part.
worry about the premiums at the start of the year if you lock them and they fluctuate in price, or is it sort of still no? If you've got the premium that you're going to set and forget, like a Max Gawn, it doesn't matter? Because I had Max Gawn all year. I didn't even think about his price going down and up.
That's probably the better way to do it, really. I suppose if you're trying to be just...
It's like trying to hit the stock market, trying to get it the exact right week. How do you know exactly when
exactly,
it's
and to get the timing of when the trades are there and when you've got the player to trade out to make it happen, sort of on each of those occasions it was like, well, I've got this guy to trade and I've got the money, so Bont's there. Why don't I just grab him?
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, other people get him for 100 grand cheaper. But it's very hard to predict.
You then weigh up the, like when I got him, he then scored 260s in a row, and you're like, I haven't got a scoring advantage over the guys that missed him and waited 2 weeks. But sometimes you trade someone in and, they'll score 250 points across 2 weeks, and then other people jump on, and you're like, I'm not fussed about paying extra, even if the price is dipped. So it's, you win some, you lose some. There's no real correct. Yeah.
And I was saved a bit by getting some guys cheaper. I got Butters when his price came down. I got Holmes for 500, just under 500, just over 500K, I should say. Callum Mills, when he was sort of on the bubble, I guess at 350 odd. Now he's over 500. So he's been a great pick. And of course, the great Tom McCarthy, who saved all of us, coming in just at the perfect time, 99K. I mean, if he hadn't have been there, I don't know who I'd be playing in my
He stayed in my team. I kept him as a flex the whole time.
Same.
Just because he kept scoring towards 100. It was like, well, you're trying to, clutch, and I thought, no, just keep him in there. He's been very reliable.
Sam Close, you ate your heart out. You saved us last year, but you ain't got nothing on Tom McCarthy.
Yeah. And speaking of flex, obviously it was a new feature this year. How did you find it, Joey? Do you remember who you started there?
No, I can't remember who I started early in the season, but for me, just using the Optimise Supercoach really helped with all that, just to be able to get a good look at how it'll work. But no, I think we managed to get around it okay. But a lot of the time, to be honest, I stuck. The one that I regret, I stuck with Tom Stewart for the whole. It was Tom Stewart was driving me mad because he was a premium, and then it was not worth trading because he'd lost his value, and then thought he'd come good, and so he ended up being flex quite a few weeks, but. Frustrating one for me.
Well, now you can pick him again in SuperCoach Finals.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm off Tom Stewart, but he might be one in finals. It might just have a big September with the way the Cats are playing and the way they set the game up for him in the back half of the field.
As a brief little aside, while you're commentating games, do you have the thought in the back of your head of Tom Stewart's disappeared from this game. Like, I need him to get the ball
sometimes
from my SuperCoach side.
Sometimes, a little bit. Not so much when I'm commentating because then I focus on the call, but when I'm certainly watching other games, you can't help but look for your players and wonder where they are at times.
Yep.
I started Matt Flynn in flex. That lasted 1 week when he got dropped. Then he ended up back in there for a while, for a fair chunk of the season actually, and then I finished McCarthy there too. But I think probably the most beneficial aspect of it, which I didn't really take advantage of when I could have, is that week, one of the things that sort of weighed me towards getting Moraes instead of Bice is that I had, I think, 2 rookie defenders that I still liked. I didn't really have anyone obvious that I wanted to trade out, but I could have got Bice and just stuck him in flex.
Yep.
But I sort of passed on that opportunity. So that's something that I'll probably try and remember next year. I mean, we sort of thought the 3 rucks might be the obvious way to go, and it has worked at different stages, but...
No, I think long term, like, I got so much utility out of using the flex for its flexibility. Like, it's in the name. It's not just not just kind of a gimmick name. It's I found it so useful to be able to move my side around and do that for guys like Bice, or bring other guys in, or have a DPP in there. And there was a period where I had like Matt Flynn locked in there. Incredibly frustrating, because then you've got to really nail where you've got your DPPs and be really alert as to can I move a guy into this position? Do I have cover on this line if someone misses? But like having flex kind of made that a lot easier. In a way that just wasn't possible when I had a ruck stuck in there. So I don't think I'll be rushing to a 3 ruck setup next year.
Yeah, and just that best 22 scoring's been such a godsend. Like this time last year, I was running with 2 or 3 donuts, and even with bench is running very thin at the moment. Yeah, most people are able to get at least 22 scorers. Each week, which is makes the game a lot more enjoyable. I did.
I'm about to say, you mentioned some worst trades. I just want to give a shout out to Shea Bolton. I told you he'd be back. Yeah, that was not my finest call. It was great for 3 weeks, and then he's been a thorn in my side ever since, and haven't been able to get rid of him.
Same with me. It was the Jackson. I reckon it was Luke Jackson, Shea Bolton. I think for a while there was similar price, and it was. For some reason, I got sucked into the Shea Bolton as well, where Luke Jackson would have been a no-brainer in hindsight.
We chose poorly in hindsight, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Seduced by the talent and the upside, but not the reliability.
No. So if anyone brought him in on account of me talking him up and then going to Spain and not talking about it for a month, I'd like to take this moment to formally apologise.
I did put the call out on X and got a few replies from some of the great community out there. Jimmy said best trade he made early in the season was he started Jaden Short. He was a laid out, so we switched him to Max Holmes early in the season. That worked out pretty well.
Huge.
Scud says choosing Neil over Brayshaw haunted me all year. Yeah. That's a tough one.
That hurricane, just if it wasn't for the hurricane, I wouldn't have started blocking
exactly.
Neil. And,
I remember that.
Yeah, true butterfly effect situation where, there's butterfly flaps at wings, hurricane starts, I'd start locking Neil in SuperCoach.
So blame the hurricane for you.
Blame the hurricane, blame the butterfly.
Exactly. AJ said, the move I made this year that I'm most annoyed was bringing in Tom Stewart in round 2 when I heard Holmes was going to get tagged.
Oh, no.
I don't know if Holmes was tagged or not, but I mean, who cares? I mean, it just shows that it's a long season, and even if someone does get tagged 1 week, you can ride that out. And he said that wishes he had that trade this week to use on Rankin. Lordy says dislikes bringing in Kieran Briggs in round 4. That was a bit of a nightmare, but he likes, he got Marich when he was cheap. He got Lockie Ash when he was cheap, and Naz for 500k in round 14, which was a great move. And Hawksy says, hopefully I can brag about bringing Grundy in with the 2 trades I've somehow held for a league grand final.
Well done.
Maybe he's one of the Cooper Trenbath owners. You just trade someone to him and then use all your money to get Brody Grundy.
Yep. If you can do it, do it. This is the week. There's no point saving them away.
No, definitely not now. So just to finish off, any names, Patch, that you've been just putting aside in a little black book to pick when SuperCoach comes around for 2026, which will be sooner than we think.
Yeah, it'll be certainly very soon. I've spoken about Archie Roberts a bit at the back end of this year. Really like the way he goes about it. Just full Essendon Nuffy. But I'm chips in on him. Sam Banks I've really liked as well from the Tigers. He looks pretty good. It'll be, him or Tom Brown I'll maybe look at to see if one of them gets a half-back role. Sam Flanders, maybe, possibly, depending on what his role is, what he's doing. Love Tom Green. He'll be underpriced, I think, for what he can do next year. And then, maybe trade-wise, if we look at a Clayton Oliver, if he's in hoops, Darcy Parish, if he's in hoops. Sam Marshall, Rowan Marshall if he's in hoops.
Yes.
Anyone Geelong picks up, honestly.
Yeah.
But and then Mark Pitnet, maybe. I don't know.
What about Tom DeConey? If he goes to the Saints, he'll be probably cheaper than he was this year.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you go back and have a look at his numbers first 14 rounds, they were pretty impressive. I did the numbers the other day. He was the third highest, well, more the player ratings, not so much the Supercoach, but he was the third highest rated ruckman and averaging 20 disposals. And so he was, I think people forgot his first half of the year how good it was, and I think that's what Saints fans and the club are banking on, that it was the DeConing of the first half of the year. And I think it happens when a player probably knows they're leaving. They check out a little bit and they don't play. I mean, I saw it happen with Shea Bolton the year before at Richmond, where he probably knew he was coming to Fremantle and his second half he was really poor. So I think Tom DeConing's a good one that I'll be looking at for an early ruck. And I reckon one that'll bounce back, I'm going to say Sam Walsh. I reckon if Sam Walsh is fit and he has a full pre-season, he's a jet. He's a bona fide jet. He just hasn't had a good run. I'm not sure what he's priced at, but he might be one that will be a premium that'll be sort of under the price next year that you can lock in early.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's very early doors. Would you be concerned if Ron Marshall stays looking at picking Tom DeConing?
Yes, that would be a concern, if they're both there. I'm not sure where that'll land, but if Tom DeConing certainly is one out ruck at St Kilda, then that would be one you'd look at.
Harry Boyd in strife?
Harry Boyd, I reckon Dodson and Max Heath have gone past Harry Boyd, so he's fourth in line now, Al, so I'd stay away from him for next year.
Yeah, right. A couple of names. I mean, I love Finn Callahan. Started him this year. Loved having him on my team. He was the one I traded to get Dacos, and I really sort of hated having to do that because I love Finn as a player, and then he went on and scored. He scored better than Dacos for the next few weeks, but then he got injured and I sort of would have had to trade him anyway. But his back half of the year has been fantastic. He's averaging about 120 since he came back from injury. So he won't be cheap. He'll probably be 600K, but he's sort of one of that next generation of, Primos, the Huma Cluggage, these sort of guys that we might be...
Davies Uniacke might be another one as well.
Well, he'll be cheaper too. Yeah. Talking about before next year starts. Hopefully Josh Gibcus and Josh Smiley can get a clear run at it over pre-season. Both be sort of Richmond rookies we can pick at the start of next year. Gibcus,
Smiley definitely. I'll say it now. Josh Smiley, he'll be a chance for the rising star next year. If he's fit and healthy, he'll be one I'll be putting in for sure.
Like that. Chloe, of course, made sure we mentioned Jagger Smith.
It
will be a lot cheaper next year if he's ready to go from the start of the year. Will Day and Hayden Young, a couple of guys who will be that mid-price again, but both injury.
Every year we spend hours talking about them and they're injured by round 3. So.
And so every year at this time we say, no way. And then next preseason,
they'll be flying. You've got to lock them in, get them in. Got to take the risk to be great.
That's something we'll talk about over the preseason for sure. And another name that be curious on your thoughts on. Well, first of all, Naz, do we just pay whatever he's priced at?
Gee,
$2 million.
He's going to be a high price, isn't he?
Yeah.
For my first thought is Kenny. I'm not sure he's a lock.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. He'd be. Oh, it's going to be high. He's going to be. He'd be one of the. Would he be? How high would he be next year?
Oh, he'd be well over 600K. Yeah, I think he's the number one scoring defender for the year, so he'd be probably the most expensive defender.
Does he start as a defender or does he start as a midfielder?
Well, actually, that's a good point.
He might get DPP. I was thinking midfielder. That's why I was.
Yeah.
We'll be watching that. Yeah, if you can pick him in defence, it makes it a bit different.
I feel like he's still done enough to be defence eligible through the first half of the year.
Then maybe he is someone you'd lock away. Yep.
And the other Saint, Mateus Philippou, who's played the last few games, but clearly underdone. Yeah. Barely, you sort of barely notice he's out there, but he's going to be probably under 200K.
If he's under 200, then you'd take him. But if he's at mid-price, he's just maybe a watch early in the season to see how he goes. But there'll be plenty of options as there always is.
Yeah. Does Marcus Windhager stay at the Saints? Or does
I don't know.
If he goes elsewhere, geez, he'd be tempting.
Yeah, don't know. There's plenty there. The North Melbourne team will be interesting too. Like they should be coming good and winning more games. So the Sheasel, McKercher, Davies Uniacke, there's a few options there that you'd look at as well.
Yeah, LDU's. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. His season's just been.
He's just played. Where I rate him so highly, I think he's got a high ceiling. So he might be one next year.
I did look at him with my last trade. Could have gone Chera to him, but I decided to go Grundy to Marshall instead. And instant regrets, as we know that feeling in Supercoach. But hopefully Rowan can have a big one for me this weekend to finish it off. Thanks everybody. Thanks for coming in, Joe. It's been great to chat to you again.
Thank you. It's been fun. Enjoyed the year.
And Patch, yes, fantastic Supercoach season again. And good luck with your final No grand finals, but overall rankings is still up for grabs.
Still up there. Still got to stay ahead of the plebs in the lair.
Yes.
But I'm sure I should be able to do that.
And the finals Supercoach though, we can redeem ourselves with the finals Supercoach. So that'd be good.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll be back talking about that, no doubt, very soon. Good luck, everyone out there. If you're in a grand final this weekend, or just gunning for that PB in the overall ranks, or if you're aiming for the 50K, it'll be a very stressful time, I'm sure. But yeah. Try and have fun. This is our last show of the regular season, but yep, we've got SuperCoach Finals is open already, so no doubt we'll be back talking about that very soon. Of course, you've got SuperCoach EPL and all the other great SuperCoach games coming your way. So for one last time for the 2025 regular AFL season, happy trading, and we'll talk again soon.